I need to put the headphones on.
Live. All right. They say we live.
We are live.
Okay,
and it
once
comes.
again. They say we live. All the way. We're back the last Thursday of the month, as we said we would be. We're back here on the Good Man in the Mirror show. And we use the word THEE for the because it's a personal journey. And we always want to be reminded of that. But today, as always, we have another special show. And as we do, we alternate because we trust one another to bring, well, put it like this, we trust God. And God usually works through one of us to bring awesome show. And that's just what it is. And I'm going to let the man who God worked through this month, first I'm gonna throw the ball over there to him, and then I'm going to let him do what he do, is Mr. Nate Jenkins.
Brandon Jones, real shoot. Bang, he scores. So, thank you, Mr. Boo Jones. Nate Jenkins here, family. Thanks for tuning into the Man in the Mirror. And everything we say and do is our own volition, our own words, our own thoughts. Charged to our heads and our hearts, because we speaking from our hearts. We want to give a shout out to our other compadre that's not here with us. We want to throw out some prayers and best wishes to my man Rodney.
Mr. Rodney Grimes.
Mr. Rodney Grimes and his
you,
family. We want to let him know we thinking about you, praying for you and with you. Normally it's three of us. We got the quarterback, Mr. Boo Jones, and we got the guy that touchdown Tommy, Mr. Nate Jenkins, myself.
That's right.
Tonight's topic is something that's near and dear to my heart, and I think it should be near and dear to every person of African descent that finds themselves being a resident of these United States, because we're under attack right now. And the attack, don't get me wrong, but the attack is being mislabeled, because we're talking about the importance of educating our Black kids, right? The importance of it. I'm going to introduce our guests in a minute, but I just want to say this. When we're talking about the attack from a political standpoint, from a cultural standpoint, we got to understand that it's always been an inside job. Kids' first teachers are always their parents, and we hope them to be most influential. So I don't care how many books you burn, how many laws you write, all of that good stuff. If we doing what we supposed to do as human beings and as stewards of those young minds and bodies, we will make sure that one of the first things they do other than eating is learning.
That's right. That's right.
Because the future is today. It ain't tomorrow, right? So I got a few quotes that I'm a hit off real quick from some dynamite folk before I turn it over to our illustrious, esteemed guest that we have here in studio.
That's right.
But this came from, it was sent to me from our guest who would have been here today, which was the good Right Reverend Dr. Delicia Davis. She couldn't be here because of she had a death in her family. She has to attend to that. But she says, I'm going to send you some quotes. And I thought it would only be right And the title was Education for African American Children. These are the quotes. The first one says, the paradox of education is precisely this, that as one begins to become conscious of one begins to examine the society in which he is being educated. That came from James Baldwin. The next one says, education is the passport to the future, for tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for it today.
That's right.
Malcolm X.
That's right.
There is no boy at this age cute enough or interesting enough to stop you from getting an education, young ladies. If I had worried about who I liked, who liked me, and who I thought was cute when I was your age, I wouldn't have married the president of the United States, Michelle Obama. The importance of education, man, is just what Malcolm said. It's about today. It ain't about what we're looking towards. It's about what we need to do. So I'm going to introduce to you this beautiful young lady, near and dear to my heart. She is, and I'm not going to tell her whole story, but she is one of the most astute young ladies that I know in regards to the importance of education, particularly in the Black community, because that's where she's done most of her work. Her educational prowess is there. I'll let her speak to, her degrees and where she went and why. But I will say this, because I kind of know her personally, right? When she first started this journey as an educator, I was totally against it because she was supposed to be the next Thurgood Marshall.
Now, why would you be totally against?
Because that's my daughter. And she had went to a high school, Justice and Law Academy and all this type of thing. And in my whole life, I remember being in trouble once. And she said, Daddy, don't worry. When I get old, I'm gonna be a lawyer, so you don't have to go through this no more. Yeah. And from that day forth, I had lawyer in my mind.
Daddy, won't you stop doing crimes?
Nah, she didn't say Daddy stop being a criminal. She said, Daddy, don't worry about it. I got you.
I'm gonna get you out.
I'm gonna get you out. Then she came to me, after she got a little older and said, I'm gonna be a teacher. I couldn't talk to her for a few months, but we got through that. But I'm so glad she found her passion because now I'm an educator and was once before.
Right. It's a whole table for education.
It's a calling. It's not a job.
It's a calling.
As they state, when you get a job that you love, it's no longer a job.
It's what I had to cut in on that. That's like a segue into what your dad told me several years ago when I started doing substance abuse. And your dad is like my brother, so we talked, and he was like, one day he said, man, this is your calling. He said, this ain't a job for you. Because we worked together, so he had actually seen me at work. He said,
do your thing.
Yeah, he said, man, you good at this. He said, this is your calling, man, in that particular field. And I can relate to that.
So I'm gonna tell you, this young lady right here convinced me of her calling.
Yeah.
And as I watched her walk and lived with her through her walk, I am so proud of, not only because she's my daughter, because she was, and I still will be proud of her tenure in education, because she's touched so many lives. So many people walking around in the DMV that had the blessings of being in her presence in the educational settings that are now pinned to success because they had the experience of being tutored under her tutelage. So with no further ado, and I'm going to change your name, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to give you Mrs. Tiana Jenkins Hill.
You're going to put the Jenkins back
I
in.
had to throw the Jenkins back in. Yeah, I had to throw the Jenkins back in there because, we just don't want to miss that. So Ms. Hill, tell us about, before we get into the topic, tell us about how you got into education and what was your educational journey like to get to that point?
Okay. So thank you for having me. I'm privileged and blessed to be here. to be able to share my story and some advice, and to just, be able to feed into our community the food that we need, right, for our nourishment. With that being said, I am a product of DC Public Schools. Okay. But prior to going to DC Public School, I was in private school.
Yes, you were.
And then I switched over to DC Public Schools, and I was in some really good programs. And then even for high school, I was supposed to go to a top high school. And then I got a little card in the mail saying, we're starting a new program, the Academy of Law, Justice, and Security. And I said, I want to be a lawyer, so I want to be in that program. My parents completely objected. And so then my father was, I'm not doing this. This is a conversation for you and your mother. I'm going to trust in her. So let me start there with my educational journey and experience and who I am as a woman, in that my parents co-parented and trusted in each other with my journey.
Exactly.
Okay. So that's an important foundation. We're going to get to that. But my mother looked at me and she said, I'm going to give you 1 year in this school. And if you don't have at least a 3.5, I'm taking you about it and sending you to the right school that I want you to be at. I said, okay, deal.
Sitwell Friends versus Anacostia.
Okay. I said, okay,
That
deal.
was a choice.
Yeah.
So I go to the school. I didn't know anyone but my cousin. I had one cousin. And then she ended up transferring schools. So she left me by myself after the second week of school. But after my first year at the school, mind you, I'm in DC Public Schools, Anacostia High School. What do you immediately think of? The drugs, the gangs, the violence, there's all these things, low performing kids. I'm amongst people that actually do think like me. They want a future. They're working hard. They're smart. No matter where we are, these people do exist, right?
So that's
they're
a myth that
ambitious.
you-
Absolutely. They're
Yeah.
ambitious. They're goal oriented. And we all came to the school for the same program. So, okay, we're in the inaugural group. We had great teachers. And then at the end of my freshman year, I ended up getting an internship at the Internal Revenue Service. 14 years old, working at the IRS because of this program in this DC public school. Okay. And of course, I'm a cheerleader now. I'm popular. I got well above a 3.5. They said, okay, you selling there. You looking good over there. All right, we'll let you stay. Okay. Through that time, I was awarded the opportunity to be a foreign exchange student. And I lived in Russia for 45 days. Okay. Through this DC public school.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. I keep saying that because there are so many negative stigmas
Stigmas to it, yeah.
about our public school and
those
the
three.
education.
Yeah.
Right.
Especially,
Okay.
yeah.
So this was a time right after, the Cold Wars ended and everything in the 90s. And so you had the United States and the Russian government trying to work together. So they created this program with DC Public Schools. Well, we did have Russian students that came to our school. I was not a part of it then. One of the students had to back out. And so then I was awarded the opportunity because of the relationship that I built with an administrator. And
That's
she
important.
said, here's an opportunity. I think you'll capitalize on it. And you have the parental backing to get this done. I had about 6 weeks to come up with the money to go to Russia, get shots, get a passport, all kinds of stuff. We rushing to get expedited and end up going there. And it was one of the best experiences to really shape me into the person that I am today. So then you fast forward and graduate, and it's time for me to go to college. Okay.
Here we go again with that.
So
Go against
I'm
daddy's
going
wishes.
on college tours and everything. And, my parents had one vision for my life and I had a different one. I wanted to sow my own path. And so I applied to schools and I got in. And then all of a sudden I got a card in the mail. These little cards that come in the mail. I got a little card in the mail about this school, West Virginia University. Where is West Virginia? I don't know. I'm not going to nobody's West Virginia University. This one over here. I'll take you on the college tour. I like their football program. They got a good running back up there.
Yeah.
You're going to have some fun. I said, excuse me?
But I wanted her to go to Spelman, where she had a free full ride going on.
So we drive to West Virginia.
You want West Virginia?
And no, at the time, I did not. I didn't even know where it was.
Yeah.
we drive and I get there and I felt comfortable on the campus. And I'm like, wow, this is different, right? Decide to go there. I journey there under one major, change majors, end up graduating college with my bachelor's degree in 3.5 years.
Mm.
But it was around the time of right after September 11th. So there were no jobs in my field. So I came home. I kind of worked, some small jobs within my major. And then one day I had to pick my sisters up from school. And I'm asking them about school. How was school? What y'all learned today? Did you do this? Did you do that? They didn't have the answers. I said, what do you mean? What are they teaching you? So now I started investigating. And that one conversation with my sisters had me change my career path.
Mm.
And I said, I'm going to go be a substitute teacher. So I taught for a year in one of my old schools. So I'm going back home. And I rather enjoyed it. And so then I said, okay, I'm going to apply for a master's degree in education. So then I started a master's program, and then I got a full-time job in a public school district.
What was that school?
The master's program?
Now, what was your
that was
first
Trinity.
School? Okay, so what was your first school in the public?
So I went back. It's not the same anymore. But I had to go back to home, Jefferson Junior High School, Southwest.
Okay,
I told you I'm a DC public school girl.
Yeah.
And so I went
Where
there.
she got this Teachers of the Year little thing.
And
Well, we
And
got to let it marinate.
So then I got my master's, and then I got employed with the school district, and I've been there ever since, in that same school district. But through that journey and that process, I've gone from a classroom teacher to in charge of my entire department. And when I became in charge of my department, this is also the importance of education. I was the youngest on the team. And my principal, actually, I take that back. One of my fellow colleagues, he was in charge, and he was about to retire. And so they went to him and said, somebody's going to have to take over this.
Who
and
would you
he
recommend?
said, I'm telling you, I like this young girl. She got some fire over her. So my principal came to me, and he approached me about it. And I looked at him, I said, are you sure? Do you see who's in my department? I'm a young Black girl. There's a gentleman about 10 years older than me that's Black. But other than that, these were some older white people. I taught social studies. So these are a lot of white men, one white lady, and it's the Good Old Boys Network. You sure? He said, I'm going to do one better for you. He said, not only do I want you in charge of the department, you know how every administrator is over a department? I said, yeah. He said, I'll be over yours. So that way I can sit in the meetings to make sure they don't disrespect you. Oh, okay. Took years, but I finally gained all of their respect. When I had the highest test scores in the building, then all of a sudden it's, what you doing in your classroom? Oh, now you want to see what I'm doing, what my teaching practices look like. Because see, here's the data to prove what I'm doing is actually working. So from there, I became a program coordinator. And then I worked at the district level. As a program coordinator, we had some associate superintendents and folks come to the school, and I had to present for them. So when an opening opened up in the district level, they called me and said, we think you should apply for this job. So I applied for the job. I was like, oh, okay. So start working at the district level. And from there, I have been working with different educational entities, national and international educational entities, and I now am a staff developer. I present to teachers throughout this country. I show them teaching strategies and practices, share lessons, ideas. Basically, how do you get the kids engaged? How do you reach children of all social economics, racial backgrounds, ethnic backgrounds? How do you get success in education? It's not to say that what they're doing is wrong, but how do you bridge the gap and build those relationships? So I work with teachers throughout the country in doing that.
Your dad told me.
Woo! Woo! Home run! Heavy hitter! Out the park! Out the
I
park!
was saying your dad he's very proud of you. So am I, because I feel like that's like my brother. So all the kids, when I hear about the kids, I be like a proud uncle.
Yes.
She
But I have some, I have some proudness.
She left out one job though. She is my bell cow. She's my soundboard. She is blessed and highly favored. So let me break that down for you. Okay, because she's the first out of my mob. You know I got a mob, double digits, all that. But when you hear it, and Christians say this all the time, I'm blessed and highly favored, but they don't read the scripture to understand what that means because they overuse it. Blessed and highly favored means that you've been blessed because you've been chosen by God.
Not because you did something.
You've been chosen by God. It ain't got nothing to do with prosperity, gifts. Those are called blessings. But when you're blessed, you're chosen by God to take on tasks that nobody else would.
Or could.
Because
you've been fashioned for it.
But then you're favored because he gives you the tools necessary to get through all that he puts in front of you.
See, when I heard
he
her
favors you in that way.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct. When I heard her sharing, right, because it connects to my spirit, because she was made for she in her calling.
Yeah, she walking her calling.
She's walking in your calling, right? And that's what we was talking about earlier.
And that's why it's so. The success is maybe not seen as success as opposed to where you're going to be anyway. You know, those who walk in their calling, it don't jump out like the headlights or the stars come on. You just walking in the light the whole time.
Yeah. And the thing about it is, just like when we started the show today, and I was telling Brian when he was having a little difficulty, nothing to do with him. He's excellent, right? But most people that get the calling is always adversity.
Oh yeah,
it's always and we was taught to head towards the greatest resistance.
But you know, when you hear that term favored, right? I recently learned this. I was listening to another podcast, and the pastor, the young lady said, you know when you favored, when you take on tasks that you're not qualified to do.
Yeah.
That it's not something that you wanted to do, but it was given to you to be done.
Well, not saying and that then you're not qualified.
No.
Not in the terms of
you
society.
don't have necessarily paper credentials.
Correct.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
Paper credentials.
Well, not only that,
but you're definitely qualified.
It might not be job related. I'm talking about life qualifications, right? You may be put in a position, we're talking about education, to educate folks through your life's walk.
Absolutely.
Right?
Oh, yeah.
And you don't know how you're going to get through it, but you get through it because he favored you and gave you the tools while you were going through it. Not before or after, but while you're going. And the reason why I'm saying it, because she's the oldest. I say my grand 15, right? But it's 7 years between her and her next sibling. And they look up to her. I lean on her. Everybody leans on her, but she don't get tired.
How many years?
7 years between her and the next one.
You know about that though?
Yeah.
That 7 means completion.
Yeah.
Right. So it was complete. She was already completed in her before she even took on the task.
But now she's so favored that when those siblings, myself, her students, and others that work and walk around her come to her for information, an ear even, or a titty. You understand?
I get it.
She is not one to ask why you need me or I'm tapped out or any of that stuff. She just come right with what's needed.
What they call that when you're in the family, you become the what you call that? It's a certain thing they say. I think it starts with an A. You become that of the family, the Antioch of the family, or something like that.
You talking about the matriarch?
Matriarch. Yeah. No, she definitely matriarch of my siblings.
Yeah.
But
maybe
she takes it on.
Of the whole family.
But she takes it on, and she's had, and I've had that.
So humble too.
I've had that with my sister.
Yeah,
who she is so much alike. Which is actually her godmother.
No, she's
not your godmother. That's
another one.
That's Tate's
godmother.
But it's so many of them. But yeah, but not to keep singing her praises, but I just want the audience to understand that
Well, also,
when you walking in
your purpose.
your purpose, you are favored to such a degree that when you are introduced to tasks, they're going to be done, but from the Creator.
Yeah.
So now let's get to the topic of this education of Black
Before
children.
we dive into it, I want to say this too, because one thing we do, we on Man in the Mirror, we always the elephant in the room. We always address the elephant in the room. That's our thing, right?
That's it.
And so one of it is, isn't she the one that you and I spoke to the school?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I want to tell you how you enhanced my life. Like that was I done spoke in front of people before, but it was people for some kind of substance abuse thing or something like that. But I never spoke to a crowd of children. I never spoke to a child of children. That was my first time. And see, like you was talking when you was sharing, you was talking about being first. You never get, nobody can take away the first. You firstborn, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me too.
Mm-hmm.
You only can be first once.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right? It's something special, right? Because they say your firstborn is supposed to be given back to God.
Mm.
Your firstborn male too. Yeah, back to God. But anyway, the point I was making is now from that, he's talking about walking in your purpose. I done spoke almost everywhere all over the East Coast. And I spoke to a lot of different people.
Mm-hmm.
But it started with Nate. Nate know everybody.
He does.
But he picked me.
He does.
But he picked me.
He does.
I got a little Rolodex.
No, but he know everybody. Now see, this is what you talk about favorite.
Mm-hmm.
All the people you know, he asked me to come to the school to speak with him.
Mm-hmm.
Out of everybody knows, so that meant a lot to me too. Yeah. But that's the Creator putting people on different people's heart.
Mm-hmm.
I started off with a lot of different people doing this show.
Mm-hmm.
I told Nate something, and we don't have to tell it. We can just look at each other and know. Didn't I tell you that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're gonna last them out.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're gonna last them out.
Yeah.
So
and they used to come to the house when Man in the Mirror first started.
in your house.
At the house. Yeah.
Mm.
So here's the thing. Right? I want to bring us back to the topic, right? So the importance of educating Black children.
Mm-hmm.
There's roots to everything.
Yeah.
So let's go back, right? Prior to us coming here as captives, one of the things in the African communities, just about all of them, the elders always taught the youngsters what was expected of them in their daily lives. We're going to hunt,
And what
we're going to fish, this is how we're going to do it, the whole nine.
Educate.
They were the educators, right? We came over here as captives and they erased all of that. But we know our foundation is in what we know, not what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's in the knowledge. So during slavery, on every plantation just about, there was at least one slave that had a thirst for learning. They got books. Of course, the Bible was always available because they were trying to beat them over the head with scripture to keep them in line. And those who didn't have a reader on the plantation.
Let me make this straight. Different perspectives of what the scripture meant.
Right. Mm-hmm. So they would have slaves, if you remember the movie Django, they would have slaves who could read, come and read portions of the Bible that led them to believe that being a slave was the best thing for them. Right. So education has always been at the forefront of our existence. It's something that we thirsted for from our origin. And it was always the responsibilities of the elders to do that. As time has gone on in the United States, and if we become more culturally aware of ourselves and trying to be a part of the whole dichotomy of what America is, we as Black folks have gotten to a point where we're emulating other folks. Mm-hmm. We want the school to raise our children, right? We've taken the job away from the parent. We actually surrendered the job because we got caught up in the glitz and glam of having things. You can't serve two masters. So instead of me being home, one parent at home, one parent working, we now got one parent households where one parent got to do everything. So in the Black community, school is not just an educational place, it's a babysitting place. It's sports and learning, it's everything. Kids spend 80% of their time in the school building more than they do at home.
Right.
But we've always known that our success as a race of people is in our education. No successful person in the Black race is uneducated. They may not have the degrees, but they have some education around what they know, right? And right now, with our current administration, the administration is trying to come in, Republicans in the House, and all this craziness, they're trying to erase everything in regards to our proudness for success. So all the books that they burning, that they kicking off the shelves at the schools, are all about erasing the positive Black history, right? All about erasing the things that will make our children say, I can be someone. I too can do that.
Let me say
Right?
this for the viewers. So what I hear Nate saying is that anything that would give us hope,
Yeah,
they want to eradicate.
got eradicated.
Yeah. So
But you know why though?
let's
Let's
go
hold
to
on
our
before we
guest.
let's talk about the elephant in the room. The real elephant in the room we always talk about is white supremacists, right? So in order for me to be supreme as a race, I got to control the narrative, I got to control the money, I got to control the people. I can't control people who know that they are great.
Yeah.
I got to remove their greatness. I got to dummy it down. But first, I got to indoctrinate them to a point where dumbing down is acceptable.
Yeah. It's
'Cause
cool.
I don't need no pushback.
Right.
So what I'm going to do is put so much on your plate that education loses its place. Because it used to be back in the 40s and 50s, oh, you sending that kid to school. It's nowhere else that kid going to go.
So if I give you a bunch of toys to play with,
Mhm.
you ain't gonna want to really do.
You ain't going to want to learn
You
that.
ain't want to learn that.
And if I give you what
so-
you think is opportunity, then you'll stop seeking opportunity.
Yeah. So like
Right.
I heard, and I hear a lot of people say this. This is like what Nate said before it started. This is just our views. We're not trying to make you believe what we believe or anything. But money, yeah, it's needed. It's a tool. It's a tool for control. And a lot of times they got us believing that money is valuable. Money is a tool, just like they use, the old don't pay attention to the man behind the curtain trick. Money is a tool. If I own this building, I don't really need no money. The building gonna pay for itself. I don't really. If I own the land, it's under. The land pays for itself. So they said the powers that be, the Caucasians, they said that they ain't invented nothing except the patent office.
Mm-hmm.
You heard that one before, right? Because if I own it, then I'll make you pay me for it. I created the money. I created the currency.
Well, see, I'm glad you said currency. And then we're going to kick over to Tiana and get her view on this. But what folks don't understand is there's only 4 currencies in life.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, and I'm going to put it in a level of importance. The first one is time. Because time is something you spend every time you use it, and you can't get it back. Right? That's the first currency. The second currency is knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
That's something you gain and utilize, but you determine as an individual how much knowledge you want to have and how you use it. So that means it's number 2 in the level of importance as we deal with life.
Mm-hmm.
The third currency is relationships, because God did not create us to be sole individuals.
Mm-hmm.
You got to relate to other things and other people to have some success. No man's an island. No man stands alone. And then the fourth one is money. Money is last. My grandfather always told me as we rolled past the building and grave, he said, you see that building right there? That's where they make money. He said, unless they burn that building down or it closes its door, don't worry about no money. Because it's always going to be made something every day. He said, but now if you ride past that building and the building closed, you need to go start taking because there ain't no more money being made. So every time I ride down 15th Street, I look over there just to make sure that place still open.
Still standing there,
It is still open. So Tiana, give us your view of the critical nature of the importance of educating Black kids. Let's talk about Black kids. Give us your view on the importance of that.
So, I'm glad you asked that question, and I'm glad that you said the currency and in that order. And the reason why I say that is because when you start talking about time, it's how are we spending our time, right? And are we spending that time building knowledge in our kids? And if we are, what kind of knowledge is it? And where can they utilize those tools? Unfortunately, right now, you're right, we are under attack. And in our community, our Black kids are not utilizing their time and their knowledge to the best of their ability. But then it goes to beg the question of, are they being taught how to do that? What kind of tools are they being given? You talked about money being a tool, but what kind of tools are they being given? And then who are the people that you're putting in their lives, right? So in educating our children right now, give you a prime example. I just visited a state recently where basically the teachers get to select what they want to teach.
The teachers?
The teachers get to select what they want to
No
teach.
curriculum.
So there's no curriculum,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if I'm a little Black child in that state, okay, am I being taught the things that we're talking about now? Probably not. So where am I going to access that knowledge? How am I going to be able to identify with my ancestry and know where I come from and my greatness? It's going to have to come from home. So a large part of that is within our community, we are relying too much on schools and other people to invest time and knowledge in our kids when, like you said, the very first teachers are at home. What's valued in the home? That's how you educate our young Black children, by creating value, by putting that time, and make sure that you give them the tools of how to use the knowledge that they acquire. A lot of our kids, even our latchkey kids, they street smart. They got a lot of knowledge. Some knowledge more than some adults, to be honest with you. Their mathematical skills and things of that nature, what they can do. But are we spending the time to show them how to utilize that information in the right way and putting the people and building those relationships in that community around them? Or are we too focused right now on either trying to provide them with what we didn't have, okay, what we think we value, right? To say, oh, okay, I want to make sure that my kids have the latest this, that they dressing in this name brand and all of. None of that stuff is gonna matter. Because if you're a little Black child in that same state that I just left, you have no identity. You probably have no idea, and you're probably thinking about yourself and even your race and your people with the perceptions of media and not knowing the truth and not knowing your ability, right? One of the things that I love about the 1610 Project is that she said we can't start teaching African American history from slavery. We got to teach it from the kingdoms. To teach our kids that you come from greatness, you come from kings and queens. And this is where the first civilizations began, with Black and brown people. And others then had to trade with us and steal our ideas and things of that nature in order to build. Right. How am I supposed to know that? If the teacher, there's no curriculum that says they got to teach that to me.
Right.
They get to choose what I learned,
Now, let
what
me ask you,
knowledge I
was that
acquire.
a mostly white environment?
It is.
But we
Okay.
know,
It
and
is.
we talk about this because we just talk. We're not talking about it from a racial point of view. We're not talking about it from being biased.
Is this factual?
It's facts.
Absolutely.
That's all that we saying.
Absolutely.
We-
She talking about something she just experienced.
I
Yeah,
just
squeaky
experienced.
wheel,
Yeah.
get the
Absolutely.
grease. The
Absolutely.
squeaky wheel, get the grease. And if we haven't built a foundation among ourselves,
Mhm.
how are we gonna put bricks and bricks on top of a place with no foundation?
Well,
So
go
here's the
ahead.
deal. One thing that I would teach my students, especially as a history teacher, is I told them, I said, you want to know why they did not want the slaves to get an education? I said, because guess what? If they actually learn how to read, they would know they really weren't slaves.
Mm.
It goes back to the old saying of, if you don't want somebody to know something, put it in a book
Yeah.
because they're not going to read. If you look at statistics today, and even if you look at, for instance, when you look at like UNICEF and HBCUs, it takes 6 years for our kids to get a 4-year degree. 6 years.
Is that going on now?
That's now. It's taking our kids, it's taking our Black and brown boys and girls, and even our men longer to get a 4-year degree. It's taking 6 years.
Now, this place you came from, where the teachers can come up with their own curriculum, right?
Mhm.
That would be strategically a good place for a lot of Black teachers to get a job.
Not at all.
No.
No, you ain't understanding what she's saying. It's a white
No.
state.
Oh,
Mhm.
They don't want us there.
right.
They sent her there to help them.
Mhm.
Teach. Their,
No,
No.
no. When I originally went,
what was your
it
assignment?
was to show them how to teach within a framework.
Okay.
What I unpacked for them was, by you having no curriculum, what are you teaching these kids? What's the direction that you're going in with this lesson? What's the ultimate goal here?
Yeah.
What aims and objectives do you have? If I'm a kid sitting in front of you, and who determined that? Who determined what I should and should not know? What I should and should not be exposed to? No matter what race I am.
So,
That doesn't even matter.
So it's nobody regulating at all what they're doing. It's
No
just-
standards
Yeah,
No.
it's
Oh,
standards.
there are standards,
Standards.
but there's no curriculum
No curriculum.
to back those
to back the
standards.
standards.
Yeah.
Right?
curriculum.
I just experienced this. So
Unbelievable.
In,
Y'all hear that?
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
2024.
in
Y'all hear that?
2024.
And we
so
talking
it's-
about one of the top 5 richest states in America.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So we was talking before the show, and we addressed the elephant in the room. Just it's blatant. Everybody know this. How can you get convicted for a felony of any kind and run for a government office? You can't get
Everybody can do that but us. So let me just say this. Let me say this. Okay, so here's the ploy. When we're talking about educating Black children, and we're saying that it starts at home,
Mhm.
or should be participatory at home at least, the parent got to be there,
Right.
right?
And the parent got to be educated itself.
No.
No.
The parent just has
You
to
don't
be
think so?
there.
No.
Because they can learn at the
No,
same
I was
time
gonna say
together.
that.
Okay.
But here's the
Mhm.
thing. When we break up the Black family,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
We take the job of 2 people and put it on one person.
Mhm.
Right. So
Whether it's male or female.
You got to provide an early aspect of,
You don't have
Absolutely.
nothing left
Yeah.
when it
Absolutely.
comes time to be a teacher,
Right.
Right.
because you just did 12 hours,
Mhm.
16
Oh, I
hours,
get it.
Mhm.
or we've made it culturally acceptable to be parents at an earlier age. So you're still growing yourself, trying to entertain and be
Right.
entertained at the same time as you got Ray Ray over here in the corner that needs to thrive. But you're still learning how to thrive.
Mhm.
But where did that culture come from? Because we didn't bring it here.
So we
It was
know-
given to us.
We know that this has been strategically done throughout the years, and still
Yes,
being,
sir.
still being
Mhm.
strategically done.
It's Jim Crow
Absolutely.
2.0.
Yeah,
Mhm.
we understand this, but let me ask, I
Mhm.
guess, what I know is not a just a flat rate solution,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
But give me some of your insight on what would you what would you do?
Mhm. Okay. So one thing is this. How many times are we in a car with our children and we listening to music, we singing, we're doing whatever. They may have headphones, they got their own devices. You listening to your music or you on the phone. How many times you turn the volume down, turn the phones off, and y'all had conversation during that ride? You're building relationship, and now you passing on the knowledge from what you have to that child, and then you also figure out what they do and don't know. You be surprised. Then take that time. How come you can't read during that time? How come your child can't bring a book to the car and read to you at that time? And now y'all are engaged in the literature together. I have a 50-minute commute from dropping one child off in the morning to the next kid based on traffic in this area. So what did I tell her? I said, okay, every morning for 20 minutes while we're in that car, you're going to read to me. That way I know what's her reading level so I can hear it for myself. There's no surprise if I got to meet with the teacher. I already know what your capacity is. She was reading a book and she read the sentences. She reading fast. Do. I said, go back. Say that again. I said, what's the word? Spell it for me because I'm driving. She spelled it for me. She went back. The book is by Angie Thomas. Okay. Angie Thomas is the author of The Hate You Give.
Okay.
That book that turned into a movie that a lot of people, know about. She created a children's book. It's the only children's book she created where the main character is a Black girl.
Okay.
And it's basically a science fiction book. And she said she wrote that book because when she was growing up, she did not read science fiction characters and books that look like her. So is a little Black girl. She got superpowers.
Yeah.
But at the beginning of the book, she talking about Miss Lena. Miss Lena is on the roof of her house because the hurricane named Katrina didn't came. That led into the conversation of me explaining to my child what was Hurricane Katrina because I lived through. So then what I had her do was I said, do me a favor, take out your phone. I said, go on Google Images and put in Hurricane Katrina so you can see the image of what's happening with Miss Lena and what happened with the people. She was devastated. She was floored. She said, how long did it take them to get to the people? So now we just stopped reading at this point. Because now we having a conversation about Hurricane Katrina. But where did it start from? Me turning the music off, having her read to me, and me stopping her to build context. And now we have a whole conversation. I'm teaching her. She learning at the same time. Now she go back to the book, and now she trying to tell. I said, wait, you going too fast. What happened with Miss Lena? Right? She didn't disappear. Oh, this person got a glow. So now I'm seeing and I'm hearing we're engaged, right? So one thing is turn the music off. Put your cell phone away.
Communication is definitely
20 minutes. That's it. That's it. One thing that people don't even realize, right, is the importance of our kids having Black authors because they're telling our stories, and that story doesn't have to be a struggle. Because all of us do not live in adversity and have struggles. We have successes, right? And those successes are built upon different components and elements. Where are those stories being told? And how are they being told? Let me ask you
something, because I asked your dad them this a while ago. And that's very important that, that you talked about how we're being viewed, right? Mm-hmm. Is there more Black men in college than they are in the penitentiary right now?
Wow. So you want to know something that's scary? We do not have as many Black men in college anymore.
Well,
statistically
5 years ago. Just 5 years ago. there were more in college.
More black men in college
but
than
they
were
tell
in
us
prison.
there's more in prison.
But
they
say,
told us that.
right?
They told us that,
Mhm.
that we more in college.
Well, they don't tell us. They show us
Yeah.
that it's
Oh,
more in
absolutely.
jail.
Yeah, like what you was
Yeah.
doing with what you was talking about, the visual teaching.
Mhm.
This is what they show us.
Oh,
right?
absolutely.
Now let me chime
that's
in on
just
that
it.
show thing. Right?
You can't let TV, the media, social media platforms educate your children or raise your children or even educate you.
Let me hit you with something that I was just made aware of by my good friend on another podcast, Mr. Roland Martin. I had to give him his flowers. He was talking about this new thing that blacks are getting in called Tubi.
Mm-hmm.
Streaming service. They got all these nice black shows and movies, but he said, it's all a plot. I was like, what? Because my cousin just released his first movie on Tubi, which we are very proud of. Tubi is owned by Rupert Murdoch,
Yep.
who also owns Fox and part owners, Singletary, all this conservative media in America. But he's from Australia. He lives in Australia, but feeding the American nuances all this negativity, right? Back in the 70s, the NFL, which is still now one of the biggest breadwinners in media, if you got a football contract to show the games, you got the money. It used to be CBS, NBC, and ABC were the only ones playing football games. On Sundays, those are the only 3 channels you can find, right? But when the ABC's contract came up, Murdoch, 20th Century Fox, wanted a piece of it, but didn't have the money. So what Fox did was they said, who spends money quickly without conscience? Black people. So they put on shows like Good Times, The Jeffersons, and all these other black shows and made us tune in to Fox and Live in Color, Martin, all that. So they drew all of the advertisement dollars driven by the black audience. And when they got enough money to get that football contract, they dropped all of those black shows and they put them on places like the WB and these other smaller networks that they had controlling interest in because they were controlling the advertising dollar. But they were on our backs building the white empire, which is now Fox and Fox News.
And you said it earlier, the narrative. They control the narrative. They control the perception
and the dollars
and the narrative.
Yeah.
And I mean the dollars, like I said, I believe the dollars just part of the control mechanism. But the narrative, what you see, the power of man's thinking, the power of who you believe you are. That's very powerful, And if I can make you believe that you something that you're not, I mean, they said I heard this. I like metaphors. They said the eagle was flying. And he got close to a plane, and he ended up falling into a farm. So he fell into the farm, and he was among chickens. So after a while, he couldn't fly yet. So after a while, he looked around. He started emulating the chickens. He started doing what they were doing, and he was there so long. Next thing you know, he was acting just like the chickens, right? And then one day he looked up and looked at himself, and he seen some birds flying high. And he looked down at himself. He said, "I kind of look like them." and he started getting some hope that he could fly up there with them, and jumped up on the fence and took off. His wing been healed. His wing had been healed, but he didn't know until he got some hope to see something like himself taking off.
That's why it's important.
Back to
what she was saying, seeing yourself.
Black authors, reading the books when you see the characters, and then see yourself.
Yes.
Right. So that's important to have that conversation. So that's one way of educating our children, is building the bridge and using reading. Right. But another way, when you start talking about educating our young Black kids, how do we measure success? When you start talking about educating Black children, they got to be reaching towards something, some type of goal. But how do you measure success? Where does that come from? Again,
The
it
home,
does.
the
It
home.
comes back from home, and it comes back from media, and it comes from that narrative. What does a successful person look like? What do they have? What are you working towards? That's why so many of our kids want to get into the sports, why they want to be all of a sudden now social media influencers, because this is what they
Or
see.
they
This
want to
is
be
how
strippers.
they now
They
feel
think
like
that's
they're going to
success.
measure
Yeah.
success
It goes
by
back-
having things
Mhm.
and doing certain things.
But where do we learn that from, dear? Media.
Media.
So here's what happened. This is in the last 20 years. Right? 20 years ago, there was no social media. And media itself was just an avenue for information. But when you had people of power, right, that white supremacist group that determined we're going to close all these local newspapers, all the sources of local influence, and drive you to this national audience news, where the Fox News and those guys are now really purposely for entertainment. And you got some other satirical outlets giving you false information. Then in the little fine print, it says for entertainment value only. But these are the places that we're getting our information. Now, social media, the TikToks, which is China, X, which is a South African, Elon Musk, these are all places where supremacy is born and lived, racial supremacy. So they own these outlets. They own the plug of information that we're receiving every day. You look at Viacom, who owns BET. Black Entertainment Network is owned by a white company, right? They give us the content. So when you go as a youngster, even now, some older women, you go on social media, regular cable television, all that, you don't see Black people in a positive light.
Yeah.
Ain't no Sidney Poitiers and none of them.
And we,
You know what I mean?
We don't want to be redundant about it, but it's the truth.
But that's part of the education of our youth,
and we
because
know-
they
we
spend
know.
more time in front of the boob tube,
Yeah.
like Tiana said, instead of in front of a book.
And that's why Miss Tiana, that's why that I asked you that question, because this is your expertise.
Right.
This is, and me myself, I'm a solution guy.
Mhm.
Like what, I call it barbershop talk. If we
Mhm.
just drive, we already said we drove,
Mhm.
we know it's a plot.
Mhm.
We know it's strategically done. We done said that over and over.
Mhm.
Now we want to come up with solutions.
Mhm.
Because we already know what it is. We know what it is. And we done said enough that they run these tapes back, they can say,
Mhm.
okay, now we don't want to be redundant.
Mhm.
We know what they're doing. We know what they're doing. They've been doing it for a long time. They ain't the same old two-step with them. Okay? It's kind of started with the parent. So, like, my thing is educate the parent. And I ain't talking about educating the parent on how many, no math courses or nothing. I'm talking about the education that they need to kind of like have some alternatives for their kids.
Mhm.
We might not. We can go back to when we was kids, or when you was a parent, she was young. Most of the time the parent was a dictatorship. It wasn't a democracy.
Right.
Like now in the home,
It's a feeling disease in the house.
Yeah.
Everybody got feelings.
Yeah. Forget, and
You know what I'm saying?
the
Ain't no
thing about it
facts.
is,
You're going
the
off
thing
your
about it
feelings.
is, one of the solutions is, man, I need to regulate what you're watching and listen to.
Mhm.
That's got
But
to be
see,
regulated.
that's
what you were saying.
easier said than done. And let me
It
just
is.
put a spin on it, right? We're talking about solutions.
Yeah.
I'm always from the political angle. When you look at the dynamics of a household, specifically in a single parent household, because I was one for many years with many kids, it is the availability of the parent to be there to do those things that you talk about need to be done. If I am in a monetary situation, in a social, in a cultural situation, Well, I'm wiped out, right? And my value system has been changed. The value of me sending my kid off to be educated is higher than the value of me not having that second job, because socially my kid don't want to go to school when May pops on. You dig? So I'm gonna tell you, you talk about solutions.
Yeah, solutions.
That climate was created as a result of white supremacy.
Oh, we know it.
White supremacy is the foundation of our government. Okay? So if you really want to look at what I believe a resolve is, it's the lie that they tell us every 2 years. Your vote don't count. That shit don't count. Only vote every 4 years for the president. The president only tells you the temperature of the country. He don't write no fucking laws. The laws are written every 2 years in the House, the Senate, and your local government. Your county sheriff, that vote is more important to your daily life than the president. Because that's a joke and knock on your door.
Let me ask you this.
Let me finish my point.
Ask you this, though.
So if you're talking about the rationale of change, vote so you can have someone in your locale that cares enough about the people in his locale or her locale to make some fundamental changes that would take some of the weight off those parents' backs, so now they can now go parent.
I'm gonna say what the people probably want.
But before you get started, let's let the folks know that they can join this conversation. Please give us a call, 301-761-1040. That's 301-761-1040 for Man in the Mirror.
Call in now.
Call in now. We're gonna pick you right up and guide you into this conversation. But go ahead with your point, Terrence. I'm sorry, Boo.
The point is the fact that if we know that this whole system is geared to keep us submissive, right? Mm-hmm. When you think that these parties and these government things, when you think that that's just a ruse, because think about it. To me, I think that there's just two wings on the same dragon. In
a way, it is.
And we I'm not telling them don't vote though, because but man, I remember we was out there voting like a mug when the dude
Obama.
Yeah, not just Obama. I'm talking about even when Hillary was running against Trump. Trump.
But see, we still talking about a presidential race.
No. This is what I'm
saying.
I'm using that one as an example.
Yeah.
We came out in droves. We did not want him in there. And I think just as much people who voted for Obama voted for Hillary.
No.
During that time.
No. Not the numbers. Not the numbers. Not the numbers, man. No.
I think they tell us the numbers.
No, man. No. We ain't gonna get to no. We not gonna get into no conspiracy theories.
Let me say this.
Let's talk facts.
They didn't want him in.
They didn't want who in?
The orange man.
They ain't want Obama in.
Well, I understand that. The
first time was a hope piece, a shot of hope. The second time, all polls up until the day of the election had Romney winning by a landslide.
Okay.
The difference was when you poll a person, you asking questions to a select group of people. But not only did the blacks come out for Obama, we came out because he was black. We didn't care what he was standing for. But the white folk, the poor white folk in Appalachia and all these other places saw hope in him. They cast their ballot not for him, but for hope. You dig what I'm saying?
The same people voted for.
But them same people voted for Donald Trump. You know why? Because he turned their hope to dope. What he said was, and this is what he's riding on now and always will ride on, the elephant in the room, he said, they taking something from y'all. Them immigrants coming in here, they taking the jobs that you ain't get. Which is a lie, because them immigrants don't have the skills for them jobs either.
Right.
They just cutting grass, doing construction that you don't want to do. Anyway. But they will tell you there's a problem at the border, which there is, but it ain't as great as the problem has always been. They had a solution this year. He said, don't vote on it because if you do, I ain't gonna have nothing to run on against Biden. You dig what I'm saying? So he says, like, if you look at the state of Kentucky, the boy Mitch been coming out of Kentucky for the last 10 terms. Mitch McConnell, one of the richest white men in Kentucky, one of the poorest states in the nation. They voted not to extend Medicare to their own citizens. And them same dumb citizens say, oh, we're going to vote for him because he's smart and he got money. And he's going to do better for us. But they never do better for you because they're doing better for themselves. You think what I'm saying? So for us to break through, right? One thing you got to know about democracy, the foundation is the majority rules. When they allowed us the right to vote, they've done everything in their power for the last, since Jim Crow years, to diminish the idea of us voting. So they do everything for us not to vote. Voter registration laws, no education. They took civics out of school so our children don't understand how the government works and why it works for you, how you can make a change. They did all of these things because they know the majority rules. Them cats still having babies. Them foreigners coming over here with more babies. We stop having babies. They can't catch up. So if the majority rules, then I got to rule the majority. So that's what we're going through now. So the topic with the education of the black child is, it's really the miseducation of the black child. Right? That's what's going on right now.
I agree with
so just like, you know, I'm an educator now. I talk to the guys, teenagers, say, what do you know about the local economy? What do you know about how local laws are affected? They don't have an idea. They say, man, like you said, two wings on the same dragon. My vote don't count. You know why? Because they don't even understand that from a day-to-day thing, if I vote for the right sheriff, I ain't got to worry about getting pulled over.
I gotta say what the people.
No, I'm just saying,
because then we won't get the dialogue for the solution.
But what I'm saying
but you know more about the
it's the facts.
Yeah, but you know more about the government, how it runs.
But all I'm saying though, Terrence, when we talk about educating our black children, right? They took all of the education away from our black children. Okay. So as they grew up, they would not know how to challenge laws, how to go to these open meetings, fireside chats, town hall meetings. You go to a town hall meeting, we ain't there. We ain't there. They there.
Can I chime in for 1 second?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying?
I'm going to defend media for a little bit because I think media's been bashed well enough tonight. I do agree the fact that, yes, it's sometimes medium can be a form of education, but it's just how it's being used and being, in a way, just it can be manipulative. Mind you, yes, whenever you see like big numbers or hear about big numbers and all this stuff, people treat that as facts because, oh, the numbers are there. There's the numbers, but not necessarily you have to read the fine print, which is like every time I hear about polls, the polls, this person's in the lead or this person in the lead, and I'm like, what poll?
Right.
They ain't call me.
Nobody asked me.
I've never been to a poll. I would
Right.
love to fight. I love voting polls. Those are fun. But the thing is like you don't know all these polls that makes this person lead and that, and it kind of confuses.
Don't be a conspiracy theory like
I'm
me.
not. I'm just saying the fact is
They
like,
say I was conspiracy theory.
Well, let me tell you about polls, right? So now, 3 weeks ago, there was a New York Post poll. Now we know they lean a certain way. They took 800 people and polled these 800 people about the numbers of blacks that are planning to vote for Trump. Those 800 people say, yeah, blacks. they falling in line with Trump now because he got the background as a criminal and this, and that, right? And they blast that all over the place.
So now,
But wait a minute. But then nobody checked to see who those 800 people were. Then a black think tank came out and said, well, let's poll 800 black people and see what they say. 2% say we going for that orange dude. The other 98% said, you got to be fucking kidding me. And when they went back and looked at those original 800, out of 800, they didn't even have 120 black people in the poll.
Well, it goes to this.
That's a setup.
Let's get it back. Let's reel it back in for 1 minute. It goes to who is pitching the narrative.
Absolutely.
The man with money got the power.
I will say this. When you say looking for a solution,
yes.
So I said one of the solutions, of course, is books and reading, taking the time to do that, even if it's just 20 minutes. But another solution, when you say educating our children, we have to do something called media literacy.
That's right. Explain that to us and to our viewers.
We have to, yes, it's important to monitor what your kids do, what they read, where to go, how they access their information. But it's more important for you to have conversations and to teach them how to look at the source of the information.
Right.
What's the source? When you look at a poll and they say, oh, we asked 800 people, what's the demographics of the 800 people? Or when you see your kid is on Instagram or on TikTok, you need to explain to them about the algorithm that is used. Every single time you click on this is clickbait. Okay. And when you click on that, they're tracking your clicks. And for everything that you click on is now creating a whole algorithm. It's a math problem. And they're now going to start sending you advertisements, or they're going to start sending you stories and things that they think will be of interest to you.
That's related to your interest.
Because it's based upon what you've done previously. So are we educating our kids on this information? So when we start saying they have access to so much, how do we resolve the problem? How do they learn that their vote really does matter? How do they learn that this history here is important? That we're not really teaching critical race theory, quote unquote, right? And we can't be afraid of CRT acronyms.
Explain that.
Part of that.
Explain that, because for some of us, we might not know.
Let her finish that point. But
So CRT is critical race theory. This is what they're trying to say, especially in a lot of the southern states, of why they're getting rid of certain elements of history, because they're basically saying that we're basically teaching to hate white people. And that's not true.
Or to make white people feel less than.
Uncomfortable.
Or to make them uncomfortable.
Yeah. Teaching the truth. If the truth hurts, so be it. And to be
honest with you, critical race theory was something that came up in law school. That's actually not being taught by any of the K through 12 public educators.
Right. It's a college thing.
Okay. It really is. And it's not even an undergraduate. It's at the higher degree.
Okay.
And it's, again, a theory. It's not even a practice that we're putting. Right? Okay. So they use that, right? But again, are we teaching our kids? When I say media literacy, notice I'm saying media as a whole umbrella. When I say literacy, I'm talking about the ability to read, to be able to decipher fact versus fiction.
That's right.
With my child, people can talk about me all they want to, but I'm not going through her phone. I'm not watching everything that she do. You know why? Because I'm having conversations and I'm teaching her certain things. And we're going to talk about why do you need this app? How are you using it? When you looking at a YouTube video and then the ad come up, what kind of language are they using? I got to teach her that. And here's the reason why I don't do it. Because if you start becoming a helicopter parent and you call yourself monitoring everything, they find more creative, sneaky ways to get around it. And now they no longer feel that you're treating them as an equal, and you're no longer empowering your child to be able to make the correct decisions. See, kids are not going to be with us all day. That's a part of a problem when you start saying educating your children. You got to equip them with life skills as well. And when you start equipping them with life skills, you got to be able to equip them to be able to say what's wrong versus right. and to go with what's right and not necessarily wrong because other people are influencing you. And in order to instill that and to make those good decisions, you got to respect young people. So as you're educating them, you got to respect them. You got to empower them. That's a part of the problem when you start saying when we were younger, it was more of a dictatorship and now people are in their feelings. A part of it is because, to be honest, we did need to grow from that. Because when you look at my generation and my peers, we made a lot of bad decisions. But we made a lot of bad decisions because we weren't allowed to make bad decisions and learn from them. We were just simply told, this is what you need to do. You think about you and your peers. You did a lot of things because that was what was taught to you by your grandfather, your grandmother, whomever. So you went down paths and didn't really know how to come back right because you weren't equipped with the tools to be able to navigate that. So in treating our young people like equals, now they're not my friend, but treating them as if they are young people, right? And giving them that power, educate them on that. Give them the knowledge that they need to navigate this world because they're not going to be with you at all times.
Yeah, sometimes.
So how are they going to be
Sometimes
successful
their
if you
peers
don't equip
are
them with
more
the tools?
influential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you got to equip them with the tools. I know a lot of people, a lot of parents that say, I don't like my kid to download this app. I don't want them to play this game. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I agree with their argument. I really do. But when my kids click on the app and they want to download it, I get the alert on my phone. Come explain this to me. Why do you need this? What does it say? What's the rating? What's the age for it? If you're 8, why do you need an app that say for 13 and over? What you doing on that app? So now we're having conversation.
But you still somewhat. Now let me say, you still somewhat.
Yeah.
But it's not dictatorship. It's not no, you can't do it.
Correct.
Yeah. She want to have a conversation as to why.
Well, you educating them.
Yeah.
But we're monitoring.
But it's accountability in there also.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
so you're building an accountability.
So when you say solutions to what's happening with our young kids, a part of it is no, we don't. A lot of people, especially in single parent households, or even 2-parent households, if you out here, you working 2 and 3 jobs and y'all trying to maintain and give your kids the basics, I get that. Right. And so you may not have a lot of time. But the question becomes when you have that time, what you doing with that time? You might be tired, but you gotta find some time.
Talking about proper education. So we talking about having a proper foundation.
Absolutely. So it's not just books. Because you got to teach literacy, but it's also teaching those life skills, but respect them enough and help them navigate it. Because like I said, when they're not around you, what decisions are they going to make? What character are you building? You got to create some form of trust. And all of that cannot come from the schoolhouse. See, a large part of the problem with educating our young Black kids is that, if you said, with school, you look at it as it's for a lot of people, it's a babysitting service, right? This is where my kids gonna be. I know they safe. They're gonna get a meal. Cool. I'm out. I gotta go do things. Okay. But we only have them but for such a small period of time, and we gotta fill them up with all this information. That don't necessarily mean I got time to teach your kid how to navigate this world.
They're looking for you to be the parent.
Right. So one solution is to find that time to build that relationship and equip them with not just media literacy, but how about financial literacy?
Then let me ask. I got another question.
Absolutely.
How can you get parents to be more engaging in their child's education? Because like you said earlier, mentioned the fact that I've been to, like I said, I've been doing media for a long time, and I've done a lot of like board meeting events and especially debates. The only people I see are either old folks, they're pretty much the grandparents, and maybe the supporters of the people who are in these debates. So what type of solution would you think is best to get more parents more back involved in their kids' educational lives? Because the way I see it is, like you said, the only thing they care about is like, you're in a safe place, you're learning something, I got things to do, I got to go to work, I got to blah, 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 blah. So what's the solution there?
How do we get, that's a very loaded question. How do we get parents to be more involved? right? And more engaged in the process. And honestly, I go back to it's what is valued
Mhm.
and what is measured. And what I mean by what is measured is how do you measure your success? Do you
What does
measure
success look
your
like?
success in things that you have?
Yeah.
Or is it in life's experiences? Right? I made a decision earlier this year and it came out of Christmas. I asked my kids for Christmas list. Do you know how hard it was for them to come up with one and for us to figure out what we were going to buy them for Christmas? And I looked and I said, that's because they had everything they needed. There weren't many things that they wanted. So I made a conscious decision and said this year was going to be about experiences. Not buying a whole bunch of gifts. I'm going to give you life experiences for you to be able to take that and take away with it for a lifetime. To see cars going to break down, shoes going to wear out, clothes. You can lose everything. You look in Southeast and they just had that fire, apartment building fire.
Yeah.
72 people got displaced in Southeast. They done lost everything. You done lost everything what you left with. Right? And all of that can happen in the blink of an eye.
And for myself is my spirituality. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like a lot of people don't understand this, but it's not for them to understand it. I believe that Christ Jesus is the Messiah, but I don't believe in religion. I don't believe in all those cliches and all that stuff. I believe in the content of your heart. And for like what do I measure success? I measure success of how much if I can pour into somebody else. That's my success. I like things, but I don't love things.
But you grew to that.
Yeah, I grew
Right.
to
You
it.
grew to that. So
but-
I want to.
But
go,
it's just like she grew to where your education is now,
Mhm.
and she's pouring it out. And so what we do is we just like we do a man in the mirror. We do this because we pouring back into somebody. They might not get it right now. Like the way I see it today is we Johnny Appleseeds. Either we plant a seed or we water one. We have nothing to do with how it grow.
So let me go back to his question, and you started on the answer, and the first thing that came out your mouth was, "What do you value?" So I'm a business guy. I'm a factual guy. When I look for a solution, the first thing I go to is best practice, because nothing in the world is brand new when it comes to solutions. It's being done somewhere at some level. Right? So when I look at best practices, because I'm talking about the global community, when I look at the global community and I say, well, what the heck are they doing over there? Because they don't have the issues we have over here. Their value systems are different, but their values are taken care of differently. Okay. In India, where there's 70% poverty, education is their only way out. Right? The 4th grade test is the most important event in their entire life because it determines whether or not they're poor or not, or they can eat or not as a family, right? When you look at places like Kuwait, one of the richest per capita countries in the world, they pay the parents because they know the value of money. They pay the parents every month for the attendance that your child has in school.
Because they understand what the value of
No, their value is in money.
Okay.
The government understands that we're so rich that we're going to pour into our people, because in Kuwait, it's illegal for you to have a substandard job. You cannot be a street sweeper. You can't pick up trash if you're a Kuwaiti citizen. You can't do none of that. They import that from the Philippines and other places, right? So what they do is they pay the parents. Say, look, we need your kids to be higher echelon management. Only way you're gonna get there is through education. The only way we're gonna make sure that you send your kid to school and get educated is that we're gonna share this wealth. We got this oil money. We're gonna give you so many dollars per month for every grade your kid passes. But if they miss so many days in school, we're gonna take their money away. And if they go to college, we're gonna give you a raise. And if they go overseas to college, we'll give you a bonus. They looked at their value system, decided to use what was valued, right? One of the problems we have here is we don't have a global value system. And the reason why we don't have it is that same elephant in the room, white supremacy. That's why right now you have things like January 6th that happen and things of that nature, because they value one thing: power.
Yeah, yeah.
And their need to have it. So when we start increasing our knowledge that gives you power, the world is a vacuum. If I'm getting more power, it got to be taken from somewhere, or got to be shared more with somebody else, right? So that's the big fight that we find ourselves in education. Right?
I'll give you some factual information to kind of support what you're saying, because at the beginning of Trump's presidency, when he was talking about certain countries, right? One of the countries that he singled out, when you talk about Nigeria. There are, statistics can back this, there are so many Nigerians that have PhDs. And education is highly valued amongst them. And that is definitely their way out. But again, it goes back to that power. So what I got to do is I got to use the narrative to make you think one way. You know, I'll even make it as simplistic for you. When you look at the movie Black Panther and you look at Wakanda, the power and the ability and the resources and how rich the country was, but to everybody else, they made it seem as if they were this poor, landlocked system. They didn't have the resources and the tools and things of that nature, but they really did. And they were a prosperous nation, but that was the narrative that was being told. So again, a part of that comes back to the media literacy and the values.
Who's teaching? Who's teaching? Like,
the man with the power writes the history.
So that's why I got to come back to home and taking out the time to build the knowledge. It's okay for you not to know, but it's not okay for you not to know and not to try to seek the answers and to find it. That's the part that's not okay. And bring your children along with you to do so.
Do you know that the most learned Black individuals had illiterate parents? During the Reconstruction, there were more Black patents registered at the United States Patents Office than it has been in the history of man, the first 50 years post-slavery. Their parents could not read or write. They get hung for it, but they had a thirst for knowledge, right? So you don't have to be a PhD learning individual for your child to thrive. What you need to instill in that child is the value of education and then help them seek it. That's more important than me teaching you phonics, algebra, or any other lessons in education. If I teach you to thrive and to seek knowledge, you'll always be smarter than me.
And I like something that you said and what you explained, because this is forever. This show, you know what I'm saying. This is something people go back and look. They can stop it. And you talked about what to educate with, because we can be vague in a lot of things that we say in life. You know what I'm saying. So like the importance of educating is to be able to relay it to a person where they can understand it. Because if I just come with a whole bunch of high sedity talking words, I got to meet the person where they at. So we talking about to educate my child. I had to speak a language that my child understand.
Absolutely.
You know where they at. You know, I had to be able to communicate. So communication is really like the key. The communication. You know, and what you're teaching them. You know, so that's why I asked you to explain, you know, to myself and other people just watching right now. Here's the tools. And you done gave the basics, you know what I'm saying, of what you can thrive from, you can build on. You know, because you know, like I said, I do metaphors a lot. And if you build a foundation, you gotta have a good cornerstone. Any bricklayers will know you gotta have a good cornerstone, because your cornerstone is not good, the building gonna fall.
Absolutely. But let
Every
me tell you
time.
something. When you say the foundation, it brings me to a point of, and back to the gentleman here when he asked about how do you get parents involved. You notice more parents are involved when their kids are younger. As the kids get older, they're less involved, right?
That's been your experience.
And that's when they need you the most.
Yeah.
But that's when they need you the most involved.
Yeah.
You know, and our community is real interesting in the Black community, because we tell our kids, you 18, you grown.
Get out.
You need to do this, and that.
And they were never prepared.
Never.
Never prepared.
Yeah, I know.
Never prepared.
I know, because when I turned 18,
They'll be back by 26.
but when I
Not
turned-
even 26.
No,
But they bringing somebody with them too.
hey, when
That
I
child
turned-
or that mate.
When I turned 18, my mother threw a party. I told Nate.
Yeah.
This story. She threw a party, and she did it up for us. Cooked wing
Come back to the mic.
she did it up, right? Wingettes, everything. Man, we partied till about 3 a.m. in the basement. And during the course of the night, I didn't know that I went upstairs and told her, I'm a man now. I forgot all about that. You know, I was all hyped up. And, you know, whatever. Back then, we used to drink and get twisted. And so I went upstairs and told her that 18, I'm sight. So we went back downstairs, and about 3 a.m, and one of my good friends, we still laugh about it. He was the last one I let out. He lived across the street. And from the door, steps right there up to my mother, she could hear. She said, Boo, is all your friends gone? I said, yeah, that was Wayne. He left. She said, well, what you gonna do? I said, I'll go downstairs and get some sleep so I can get up and try to go look for the job and all that stuff. She said, I told you, when you turn 18, that's it. She said, you back. I said, well, where I'm gonna go? She says, a whole lot of room out there. You can go wherever you want to go.
But you got to get out of
You
here.
just can't stay here. Yeah. Now, like you said, she allowed me to come back a couple times. But yeah, that night,
Time to go.
I had to go.
Yeah.
I tell parents all the time, as I've learned from being a parent, I told my kids, you know, the only rent you have here is education. As long as you're in school, you can stay with me forever. As long as you better yourself. These bills are mine. They're not yours. I don't need your help paying rent. But I need you to be in a position that when you leave, you don't come back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to prepare you, or live with you long enough so life can prepare you to have some level of success while you're out there. Right? If anything, I need to come live with you later on, which I'm
You
experiencing
did a great
today.
job too, Nate.
Well,
You did a great job. I
God
can
did
tell
what he
you
did.
that.
But I'm gonna tell you, I'm glad that Tiana was talking about spending time in the car.
Oh, here we go.
One thing I did growing up,
You tell us
right?
all the time.
Here's the thing, because I was a single dad. So I did a lot of working and all that. But in the mornings, I knew I had a captive audience.
Mm.
We didn't play the radio on the way to school. I wanted them to be spiritually grounded, so we go to church on Sundays. But every morning in that car, what we do, Tiana?
Singing the same song.
We sing the same 5 spirituals till I drop everybody off in that car.
Same one.
But what I made
never
sure
forget it.
was every day somebody had a different part of the songs to sing.
So they knew all of it.
They knew all of them. Now, ask her, do her children know them songs? Hold on. She's smiling.
Hey, look, because I
She's
know they know.
smiling.
Let me say this.
All my grandchildren
That-
got them songs
let me
in their life.
Let me say this. And that's, I'm glad you said that, because I was thinking about something, you just brought me back to it. Me and my wife went to the Poconos. You see the old, you know them long roads, some back roads when you go on the Poconos.
Mhm.
It's some long back roads. Them roads with deers, you make sure a deer don't jump out. And we see these raggedy barns. Like, damn, why didn't you tear that down? over the road a little bit more, you see another raggedy barn, an old tree that should have been uplifted and all that. And my wife's like, they should have tore that thing down. That thing is raggedy. And I said, no, because one of those white people will be able to drive by and say, it's history. They understand the importance of passing generational knowledge on. You know, just like when you seen Roots, when he was over in Africa, they told the same story. They had storytellers who would tell the story of the tribe. And what you did right there is the same thing. And see, and that's the kind of knowledge that we need to be teaching our kids to pass down the generation. Like I talk to my grandkids, and we more alike than different. Oh, here come Papa talking that same stuff. And I tell them the same thing over and over. My grandson Booby, now my granddaughter, she ain't number one. She ain't listening to nothing. But I'm saying, but Booby, I sat down and I poured to him. I said, man, I tell him straight up. I said, this is where I came from. And this, look where your Papa acted. You ain't never seen Papa drink. You ain't never seen Papa smoke a cigarette. You ain't never seen none of that. But let me tell you, Papa got off track before. You know what I'm saying? And then you talked about it. You said the stuff, even when it was a dictatorship, when you talked about that the parents couldn't read and all that, but they had some principles that they installed in us. So when we did get on track, we was able to get back on it because we had some knowledge of the structure of doing the right thing.
Well, let me tell you how truth can become a lie. The biggest lie in the Black community was once a truth, right? And Ray Charles' movie, his mother told him, you know, scratch a lie, you find a thief. That's one of the things she taught him, right? We say, I want my child
to do better than me.
To do better than me.
Yeah, that's a joke.
Wait a minute. But that evolved from what they used to say in slavery. They would say, I want my child to have a better life than me. But what they were talking about was
not being a slave.
Not being a slave, but also
And
being better
something.
People, more learned and things of that nature. Not having possessions.
Right.
I want
That's what it turned into.
Yeah, I want you to be better than me.
Because,
right?
they value principles and morals.
Their values and principles are different. So, but now when we migrated from an agriculture society to an industrial society, right? The trappings were, if I can get this least educated, poor person to see trappings. When you see old movies, the pimps had the big hats, the big cars and things, they want to emulate those blessings as we thought them to be and give up on the personal values.
Right.
So now when people say, I want my child to have a better life than I had,
they
talking about things.
Yeah. Not character.
Not character.
Come on.
Not being a better person than me, not being smarter than me.
Right.
Because some people say, oh, smart ass, shut up. That's smart ass, because they said some words you don't understand. So instead of you encouraging them to thrive in that way, you want them to have things. So now, check this out. In the hood, when the young parent got the dope dealing son, as long as he bringing money home, dope dealing ain't a bad thing.
Right. Till he gets shot.
Till he gets shot. Then, oh, my baby.
Right.
What happened to my baby? Yeah. Well, he ain't been a baby for a long time. Where the fuck you was at when he was growing up? You understand?
So let me say this.
So what I'm saying is that truth has morphed into a lie.
Oh, I get it. Let me say this. At this point, I'd rather be clothed in integrity than more than diamonds and pearls. Because, man, that's all we ever really wanted when we was coming up. You know what I'm saying? That you know, I remember my grandmother to help raise me, my dad's mom. And people would speak highly of her. And then when I think back, she always helped people. She always should take this up to Mr. What's-Called house. put a little money in people's hands and stuff like that. Fold the money up, you know, she did to me. Fold the money up real tiny.
Mhm.
Don't tell nobody. You know, and they spoke about it. I know a guy who used to be an alcoholic, fall down, pissy alcoholic. And later on, I seen him, and he was sober, and his life was changed, and he lived in Green Valley, Arlington. And he just passed not too long ago. He was displaced from his house back when I was a kid. My grandmother used to let him sleep in the back and let him sleep on the couch. He'd pee on the couch, and she said, "Ain't nothing but a couch." You know what I'm saying? And she'd clean it and all kind of stuff. But I remember seeing him and he's sober, doing well, driving, everything, right? I said, man, because I used to go out there. I said, man, you're doing so well, man. I said, I remember you used to get twisted. He said, yeah. But the kind act of your grandma helped me change my life. And now before he died, he was a father back to his daughter and them. They talk highly of him, right? He was a grandfather. He had got back with his wife because he like lived around the corner. He couldn't go home when he was drinking like that. The woman that kicked him out.
But it goes back to, what you were talking about when you say the importance in educating our Black children is what do we value?
That's it.
And it is the moral, it's the character development. It's how do we measure success?
Yeah.
And what that means. It's equipping them with the tools to live in this world. But there's some other things that has to happen as well. Parents got to start investing in who their children are as people. You cannot, it's not just going to be in a book. There are some kids that are so talented and gifted in other areas. You got to help foster that. You got to invest in that because that's how they grow. You also got to invest in how does my kid grow and how do they learn? The teacher can't be the first one to say, did you know that your kid read backwards? No, I didn't know that. Did you take the time?
Is that the lesson?
Yes.
Okay.
Did you take the time to find? And I come back to that time and that knowledge, right? Being the first two things. How are you utilizing the time that you have with them? Because the teacher shouldn't be the first one to show up.
That's right.
And to tell you this information. You should have been able to see that for yourself.
So communication, relationships.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
That's the foundation of it.
But you got it. She talked about two of those currencies: time, knowledge, then relationship. Money is last. We done flipped it around.
Yeah.
We got money up top. Money is last.
Exactly. And it go back to what we value.
It's just needed.
And when you say, how do you educate? How do we get our kids off the street? How do we get our 12-year-olds from trying to rob me and take my truck when they see me sitting at the stop sign or something like that? The next question becomes, okay, your 12-year-old was out the house at 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night.
Yeah. But
how'd that happen?
And this is something we really got to address the elephant in the room. There's no discipline because like you can have all this with no, you got to have some song with discipline. It's got to be some consequence. Even with God, he said, everyone that I call, I chastise. He said, oh, if I don't chastise, you're not my child. We ain't talking about child abuse. We think that means child abuse. We're not talking about child abuse, but it's got to be some reverence. Because at one time we said, oh my God, my mom won't kill me. Hey, my mom ain't gonna actually kill you. But it was some reverence there. You know it was gonna be some circumstances. Huh? And that's out the house too.
But that goes back to value.
Mm-hmm.
I can't chastise you if I don't have value in against what you're doing.
Exactly.
If I don't have so what I value, because we live in the world, you got to understand that we are governed by the information that we digest. What's good, what's bad, what's value, what's not, is information that's given to us.
But she said, you got to teach that.
But let me finish the point. The more information that we get in a certain way gives us our value system. Okay, it's not I'm a church goer, not that character, not that. It's none of that. Because you got to understand, before we had social media, before we had cable, before we had all these other outlets for information, the information came from the church. The information came from our parents. Now we've evolved to a point where that's not where it's coming from. Our methods have to evolve also, as she was just speaking on. We cannot revert back to the old way of learning and teaching because it is antiquated and it does not match. If you look at now as educators, and this is one of the hardest things for elementary school, kindergartens, first grade, you know what the hardest thing it is for them to do is to get a kid to open a book. Because if their parents had any means, when they was 2 and 3 and 4 years old, they were given a tablet to sit over there and be quiet. The tablet was the babysitter in the back of the car, or when I'm watching TV or cooking or whatever. I give them an electronic device. Now I'm asking that kid, once he gets to school, put that device down and open a book. You got this kid's mind all twisted, and their value system to the printed word doesn't exist. And it takes them to about the 3rd grade to get a grasp on reading.
I get it.
You did. So when we talk about reverence, right? When we came from slavery, slaves didn't beat their kids. They didn't have to. Everybody else was beating them.
I get it.
Their value was in, let's get our lives in order so we could possibly have an easier life on this plantation. Nobody was trying to leave because they didn't know it was something outside that fence, right? That fence was the end of the world for them. As we went into Reconstruction and we found out there's another world out there, we started having HBCUs built, land-grant colleges, and all these types of things, right? Because there wasn't no more 1, 2 educated on the plantation. We knew that we needed to thrive, so more people needed to be educated. And as we moved up through that 100 years of Jim Crow, we held on to the church because that's where information was coming from, right? But once we started populating ourselves with media, different media outlets, right? Now that it's global and everybody has input, there's not much truth to media anymore.
I get it. I get it.
So we just need to, as she stated, turn that down or off and get back to I'm your source.
And we gotta understand, because you said, and we gotta know what disposition of time we're in now. Like, yeah, I'm more eager to get the education and all that because I'm in slavery. But I ain't enslaving that.
Right.
And I got all these different distractions. Because that's what they are. They're distractions, right? So I got all this, right? But still, what about the basic value of, man, my parent ain't my sibling at school. I mean, ain't my schoolmate. My parent is not my schoolmate, because you said it too. I still gotta have a point of reverence. And I think that's missing out of the household where the parent don't have no value. And a lot of in our communities, the parent, just doing whatever.
No, it's not no value, it's different value.
It's different value.
Different
but let me
value.
say this. Even as a public school educator, right? And a lot of people have things to say against the public schools.
Yeah.
I tell people all the time, I say, I feel like we're under attack.
Okay.
Okay. There are good educators that I work with, colleagues, people that I see nationally that are phenomenal.
Okay.
Their work doesn't always show up, nor is it appreciated. But how many times do we have people fighting for that? Right? So follow me. As the gentleman stated, when you go to school board meetings, you don't have many parents that are there that are talking about the curriculums or what's happening with their children in the school. So when you go back to the value and that knowledge, it can't just be, just a book, but looking at opportunities.
How about educating the parent?
Yes, educating parents, absolutely.
But
on
not
the
book
different
education.
No,
but
just
not
educating the parent.
right, on the different
We didn't
opportunities.
say book educate.
Yeah.
Right? We live in an area right now. We are very highly privileged in this area because of all of the different opportunities that are awarded to our students and our kids in high school. We had kids that are graduating high school with associate's degrees and high school diplomas at the same time. So then if they want a 4-year degree, all they got to do is go to school for 2 more years. That opportunity is not awarded everywhere. But then also at the same time, how many of our kids understand these opportunities? How many of them want it?
Value it.
How
yeah.
many want it? Right? But I'm going to tell you another problem within the Black community, unfortunately. It's something called instant gratification.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Instant gratification.
Yeah.
Because as a public educator, I'm going to work with you to educate you. Just because I'm educating you don't mean that all of a sudden now that's going to equate to this over here.
That's right.
Right? To get that associate's degree, you got to work hard for that. But everything's not going to be guaranteed
Or given.
Right? But we want some form of instant gratification. I work with a program where kids have to work hard. It is recognized globally. But unfortunately, we don't have many of our Black kids in that program.
I'm glad you say that because
they don't want to do that work.
In the field I work in, that's one of the most glaring defect is instant gratification. You know that they you know, and that's probably one of the barriers why they that's too much successful. Even just the basic, like staying.
But it's been our demise
every time. Yeah.
Since we landed on that boat in 1619 in Jamestown. Yeah. Instant gratification.
Yeah.
That's
has been our demise.
Absolutely. The instant gratification is the reason why our kids don't want to read. What am I getting from taking 20 minutes out to read? That's too much time.
I'm glad you said that because it's just like the dude who sell the dope. I'm going to be out here for 8 hours and get $1,000 instead of going to high school and getting a high school diploma. That might give me a $30,000 job 4 years from now, as opposed to $1,000 a day 4 months from now, and I'm gonna get 20 years.
In the pen. And they taking all of that
in the pen, and they taking everything you made. But for that one slim moment, I was that man.
And I'm glad you brought that up, Nate, because that's something we talking solutions. We talking solutions. It's been a great show. We down to the last couple of minutes, but like I said, this is instilled. It's forever. We're glad you came out.
Thank you.
We honored just as much as you was honored and humbled to be on the show. We feel it's mutual.
Thank you. Thank you.
And you. This ain't we're gonna have to bring her back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we say that now because this is not enough time
to get it all in
for this, and the topic could change.
Absolutely.
But the narrative is the same. That we're trying to push forward. We're trying to give them some tools and show you how to use them.
Absolutely.
Because that's what's needed. You need the tools, and like I asked her about the parent. We did a show, and everybody's talking, "Oh, teach the kid." If I go to the rec, and I go to the rec, and they teach me all kinds of stuff at the recreation center, but I get back home and Mama's smoking the crack, and Daddy drunk, and he all like to whoop everybody. I'm still living dysfunctional. So the next got to be taught some different skill sets, and we can get into that later. That's a whole different thing.
All right. Well, again, Miss Tiana Jenkins Hill, thank you for coming in and visiting with us here, man, in The Mirror, the talk show that matters.
The talk show that matters.
Thank you for the invitation.
This was a great conversation. I hope that our audience out there got something from it. I know I learned quite a bit. But I want to close with this. The 4 currencies of life have to be spent in the order that they were given to us. The first one is time. We got to find time for these youngins. And the time for them youngins comes from the parent first.
And the parents. Time for the parents.
We need to find time for them youngins. The second one is knowledge. We need to set them up for a thirst for knowledge and then make them accountable for the knowledge that they get.
And the parent.
The third one is relationships. They got to have a relationship with the people that have the knowledge and don't run from it.
And can I just say this
And
really
then the fourth
quickly?
one is money, because money won't follow all of that.
Build relationships with the educators.
That's right.
We are your partners,
Yeah,
not your enemies.
that's right.
We're your partner.
Y'all
And the
parents
minute
hear
that you feel that they're not working with you, because there's some out there, then now you need to become an advocate and go back to make sure to see how they're spending the time, what kind of knowledge, if they're building knowledge in your child, and now create a new relationship. Go to the board members.
So let's just say it like this before we go. Let the help you.
Yeah.
Let the help you. And the old village concept
Mhm.
is still
It's
works
still there.
today.
Absolutely.
It
Still
still works today. And we're out here. This man Indeed Mirror show is the what?
It's the talk show that matters. Now we will be back, same back channel, same back station, the last Thursday of the month.
And we're gonna want you guys to call in because
Yeah.
we all in this together.
Amen for that. All right, we out.